Welcome to MSP Voice, the weekly show for MSPs by MSPs. Brought to you by MSP 360, the #1 cross-platform cloud backup. Learn more at msp360.com. This is MSP Voice. Hello and welcome to MSP Voice. This is episode number 57. Today I am joined by Nate Sheen with DataCom Technologies out of the Cleveland, Ohio area. Great conversation with Nate. He does residential and commercial. So if you're thinking about doing residential, take a listen. He's got some great tips and pointers for you. Now, a little bit of housekeeping. Remember, mspvoice.com is your source for all things MSP Voice. We've got a webinar coming up in a couple of weeks here on August 14th with VCIO Toolbox. So go to mspvoice.com, find it there, click and register so you can join that live and be able to ask questions as we go forward. Of course, I'll have the recording up after it's over as well if you can't make it live. If you want to be a guest on MSP Voice, definitely just click on Be the Next Guest and join me here. I'd love to talk to you. I'd love to talk to you about your MSP. Tell me about your business, what's working, what's not, all those fun things. If you listened, you know how it works. So definitely just give it a try. It's really easy. With that, this week, I'm just going to jump right into the interview. All of the news articles I gathered this week were all about ransomware. I'm sick of covering it. Enable two-factor authentication. Protect yourselves, protect your customers. Ransomware bad. That's all I'm going to say about that. So with that, I'm going to take it away to the interview. And here's Nate. Thank you. Hello and welcome to MSP Voice. Today, I am joined by Nate Sheen with DataCom Technologies out of Alliance, Ohio, Northeast Ohio area. Did I get that right?
That's correct, Doug. Yes, thank you for having me on today.
Great. Well, tell me a little about yourself and your MSP business.
So we started DataCom Technologies. It's going on 4 years now. The idea was there for a lot longer. I think I'm similar to a lot of people. You kick it around for forever, and you finally decide to do it. Some personal things in my life kind of forced it to happen, but it's probably the best decision I ever did. And so we're a service provider, and we have residential managed service and we have commercial managed service, and have a really nice mixed portfolio in that. Most of the residential is how we started in managed services, and I kind of tripped my way into this, and so here we are. But we're making it happen every day here. And so for those who don't know, we're in the Cleveland market, if you don't know where Alliance, Ohio is.
Yeah, and a lot of people kind of stay away from residential. So it's interesting that that you do some of that still.
Yeah, so we found a lot of the people I worked for residential originally. Mm-hmm. I think for years I had done it on the side. A lot of guys do that, and I kind of got annoyed. I think maybe a lot of people get annoyed. They call you, they want all this free advice, and you do all this free stuff for them, but you only make money maybe once a year or something on it. And I was like, is there a way to flip this? They feel guilty sometimes asking me, and I feel frustrated, and I hate for being frustrated. So why don't we just have this conversation with them? Mm-hmm. You pay me monthly, and you can we'll just make it work, Yep. And it's worked out really well, and actually I've been able to educate them a lot better to where I get very few calls on the residential, and it's turned out to be a really good relationship for everybody, and it's been a lot of fun. And that does lead into some of the more senior crowd, but I'm really passionate about taking care of those people, and I think it's a way to serve the community too. So, and there's how I started the business. I didn't have any commercial clients when I jumped into this, and so they were how I got started in managed services, was the residential crowd.
Okay, yeah. So you probably haven't done like break fix, so to speak, the traditional. You didn't make that transition. You've been MSP from the beginning.
So I worked for a break fix. As part of my story, and I saw a lot of the downfalls of that. Right when I was getting started, and before I got started, there was a big push in the cell phone repair market, and I'm like, well, that's got to be big money. So I started this with computer repair and start selling the packages and just trying to make money any way I could, and let's do cell phone repair. Well, thank God we don't have to do that anymore. So that was the worst It was terrible. So we're glad to be out of that kind of that break fix market, but we were using the break fix as a way to lead people into the plans.
Okay.
And even today, we won't necessarily turn away a break fix opportunity, but we don't get them very many calls like that anymore. People are starting to really catch on to the managed service that we have, and we're getting known as that in the area. So that's really worked out well for us. But we still use the break fix as a lead-in. The traditional route, come look at things as commercially, can you look at my computer, and use it as a lead-in to it. Yeah. And we have a pretty high close rate with that.
Okay. So you said you worked for a break fix place before. What other kind of, from your career, did you go to school, college, you jump out of high school into this?
So I tripped around. In high school, I mowed grass, and I even had my own grass mowing service because, as a kid, it's easy to jump into that.
Yep.
And my mom said, go learn computers because there's going to be a career in that. And so I went to a trade school. And so I took that advice and did that. I listened to a lot of things my mom said. But that advice, and I went to a trade school, and I met my Jedi Masters there, as I like to call them. And one of my teachers, they actually had a one-on-one career training. So I spent a year with a system administrator at that school and learned how to do it. And then from that, one of his good friends hired me in his company, which was a break fix company.
Yeah.
And I worked with them 4 years, that break fix company, and we had discussed a possible buyout at some point because he didn't have succession planned, and things didn't really work out, and I ended up leaving. And I got a sales job, and I did sales for 6 years, cold calling, door-to-door sales, and it had nothing to do with IT, absolutely nothing. I was completely out of it. I didn't think I was going to go back into IT at all. And I was still cooking on this idea in my brain that my, former employer said that won't work. Nobody's going to pay monthly for that, because I always kept coming up with new ideas and said, no, that's not going to work. And so finally, I was just like, well, I'm just gonna try it. My son was being born. My wife and I were having our first son, and I said, well, somebody to be flexible. She had a career as a teacher, and my career was, as far as I was concerned, kind of whatever. You could get a sales job anywhere, was kind of my opinion, and I had kicked around this business, and so I jumped into it, and it made me flexible enough to take care of my son and running around and everything like that. And so started with an investment of $120, and here we are, a small staff, and we have an office location almost 4 years later, and it's going well. So good. It has its ups and downs, but yeah, that's kind of the short story there. And I'm watching all the break fix shops in the area slowly close, unfortunately. So I believe we've made the right transition here.
Yeah, and one of the things, I was checking out your website, and you have some good original content, and it's very educational, especially for people who don't know much about computers or networks or antivirus. So I thought that was interesting on your content side.
Right. So this year I launched an initiative. I found that a lot of people are just asking me really basic questions, the same things over and over. And I was like, well, what if I just wrote that down?
Yep.
And then wrote a blog on it, did a podcast on that content. So when they ask me, of course, I'll answer the question. But I also say, if you want to go check out my blog or my podcast, there's a lot of other things that are educational for you there to learn. And then in addition to that, I've always considered myself like a technology translator to those who don't understand all of our terms. We have a lot of acronyms and terms, and we're talking about all these things that they have no idea what we're saying. And I thought, well, I've been reading a lot of marketing material, and a lot of people will say that they do research before they ever call you. And I said, well, what if it was to look like at my website, if they come have a conversation with Nate, just like they would normally have with me, and just understand what they're looking for. And we've seen a huge uptick, way more traffic on our website than anything else. And I'm a big critic of IT or computer break fix websites because they look like they're from 1995. and they have a lot of links that lead away, and there's nothing really keeping people on that website.
Yeah.
So we're trying to get back, making content that makes sense for people to have there and makes sense for them to be there. And why do they come there? They obviously have a problem. They obviously have a question. Let's try to answer those questions. Let's try to fix those problems. They're going to learn, they're going to read it, and they're going to say, I really don't want to deal with this anyways. I'm going to call people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the best kind of content is, if you can provide valuable content for your target market that, it makes you, sticky, so to speak. And, they find you and they find the answer, and then they like, hey, this guy seems like an expert, or, I'm going to give him a call and see where we go from there.
We are
an expert. Yeah. So in terms of, like I said, you've got your blog, and you mentioned you're doing a podcast as well. What about advertising? Is that kind of your main form that you're doing, or do you also do some other things for advertising?
We haven't found a lot of success with like actual advertising. We've really started to focus on the digital form, really working on our SEO. We have a pretty extensive email database, so we do a monthly newsletter on that, maybe some periodic updates, some things that, like news media tickles. I try to take the smoke and mirrors out and say, okay, this is what you really need to be concerned about, that type of. But really, it comes down to word of mouth. So I do a lot of networking. I'm very, very well networked. Those sales jobs I had were excellent for me. I still got pegged as an IT guy doing the sales jobs because I knew a lot about it. And so when I finally made the jump, people were like, oh, Nate finally started an IT company. And so doing that network that, those thousands of people that know my name and the Cleveland market, that I'm able to go to those different events. And you and I actually met at a networking event in Chicago. And so that's a big part of what I do. I'm normally not as tired as I was in Chicago, but so that's really where I think I've won customers, is through those relationships. And what we're trying to do on the digital side is show how real we really are, not just some big company from nowhere. That we're actually a Cleveland-based company, and we want to take care of Cleveland-based people.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I think you talked about you had this job in sales and you did it for 6 years. A lot of folks that start to start an MSP, they're just come from purely from a technical side and don't know a whole lot about sales or even marketing. But you had the computer stuff, and then you was like, hey, I'm going to go into sales. And then you're like, now you're combining those two skills to build your company. So I think that's great.
And that's why it's been important for me, who has more of a business approach to it, to be able to partner with good vendors that are able to keep me out of trouble.
Yeah.
Because I don't always have the technical know-how.
So, do you use RMM and PSA and all those types of things?
Yeah, I use Synchro RMM, and they have a PSA built in, and that's been really good for us. That helped keep our costs down. We used their product before they launched Synchro, and so we transitioned to Synchro once that was started up, and then that's how we got involved with Cloudberry. At that same time, we started utilizing Cloudberry when we started having more of a need for that. And then, we use ConnectWise Control as our control client. So we have a lot of tools like that. We just got a partnership with Mail Protector, and we're real excited about getting that off the ground. And so getting a lot of those tools in place to make it better has been a lot of fun, but also a lot of work.
Yeah. Now, do you use that for your residential customers as well? Do you have like RMM deployed out there on there?
Absolutely. I do RMM. We do the patch management, the ConnectWise control. So my residential stack is RMM, 24/7 monitoring. The nice thing about Synchro is it's not charged per machine, but it's charged per user.
Okay.
So that's able to keep our margin really good on those residential clients. But so we have the monitoring, we have the updating, we have antivirus built in. We're even now the new package that we're pushing, we're just saying, nope, you got to get backup. So they get a Cloudberry license file backup now. And the one thing we're real excited about, so I was trying to really put this all together. So now they're getting a free email account with us too that has Mail protector on the back end.
Cool.
So I was like, if I'm going to be serious about this, let's be serious about this and say, well, you're not going to get the same protection with Yahoo.com.
Yeah.
We all know how safe and secure those things are. So they can call one place and they have, because we're always end up trying to fix their Yahoo.com and their Gmail and stuff. Let's put it all.
Or AOL.
Yeah. Earthlink, we see a lot of those still.
Wow, Earthlink. Haven't heard that one.
Even in businesses too, is kind of a challenge as well. So trying to transition people, make them understand, educate them why these things are important.
Yeah, one of a coworker of mine from Cleveland, he still uses AOL. Not here, he was a former coworker. And,
okay. I was going to say, oh my gosh.
No, I'm like, I tease him about it all the time. I'm like, AOL? He's like, hey, everybody knows my email address. I don't need to change it. I'm like, okay. So, you've been doing this for 4 years now, and I think you mentioned earlier before we started, that you've made enough mistakes, but you're still in business, so you're doing something right.
Yeah.
So, what advice do you have for someone who's looking to get started and jump into this MSP thing?
I read a lot of business. Reddit, Facebook, those things. I subscribe to a lot, not just even in IT, but I see a lot of guys. I'm just trying to save enough money to start a business. And I would say if I had saved enough money to start a business, I still wouldn't be here today. And it's more of a mental game than it is anything else.
Yeah.
There's a lot of resources and tools out there. It's not always about the money to jump into it. There does need to be some financial things in place to make it work, but it's pretty amazing that you just got to have the mental, like, okay, I'm going to do that. Maybe you need to work with somebody to help you be able to do that. But I'm not saying don't have any money, but it's not so much the money that's got us here. It's really the get up and go every day attitude. If you're not willing to be up at 6 a.m. in the morning or 4 a.m. in the morning to go get it, you're not going to ever do it. So you got to really kind of check yourself on that from a business perspective on it. And if you can't do that, you can't expect your employees to do that.
Yeah. Now,
mistakes as you go. You are.
Yeah. So. Oh yeah, everybody does. You learn from them, right?
Yeah.
That's what everybody says, at least.
Yes.
You learn from your mistakes. But I guess another part of it too is, you're your own boss, right?
I have, I think 65 bosses.
Oh, okay.
That's my portfolio right there. Every one of your customers are the boss. When they call that, I think that's the biggest myth right there. All of my customers are the boss. And yes, you are your own boss. You get to make your own schedule, so that does give you the flexibility. But it still starts and stops with you as well. So that makes it even more challenging in itself. If you're sick or run down or something, you have to really focus on taking care of yourself. And so I see a lot of business owners just not taking time for themselves or not taking a moment just to take a break. Or they're working 100 hours, and I just don't see a value in that if you can't take a breather. And I try to build time into my schedule to take a break, or you kill yourself.
Yeah, work-life balance is very important.
Yes.
Definitely. Yeah. So, thinking about, the fact that you are doing this MSP, you started it, what's the best thing about it? What do you really enjoy?
I really enjoy, I've always wanted to have a job where I could really take care of people and really service people, and I really enjoy that part of it. I could probably do really any type of business that was really helping people, but I saw a big need, especially in this area, to really fill that void. Technology companies or computer repair companies, they would just be very transactional, and I wanted to have a relational, let's take care of the people and actually do it through a technology perspective. We're doing I'm doing a speaking series. I'm trying to get in front of groups where we just educate people about how to see email scams and phishing scams, and that's just who I am. I enjoy educating people and showing them what that looks like, because I get tired of hearing the stories of, I lost $2,000 to this, or I lost this, lost that, and it relates back to the technology. It's a great lead-in for our services too, but that's not my main reason for doing that. If we can educate people on that, it'll save them. They'll have more money to buy my services too.
Yep.
Or survive. I've seen people they're in a big financial trouble because of that. So that's the best thing I like about being an MSP is I get to make it the way I want to make it, not something. I get to do what I want to do, and I get to do what I'm passionate about. That's helping people at the same time as making a living.
What's the worst thing? But
I would say sometimes the hardest thing is maybe the learning curve. The scary side of it is trying to understand the security and making sure that we're up on it. I think that's the worst part of the job. Sometimes working with vendors, they can make it seem like impossible unless you work with them, or they make it very difficult to work with them.
Mm-hmm.
There's a really big vendor in this market. They've been around, a very long time. I won't mention any names, but they make my life very difficult about every single day. But you have to work with them. So I think that's probably the worst part of the job is some of those issues where I'm wasting a lot of time, I feel like, trying to resolve things that really they've got millions of dollars dedicated to it and they can't get it right. So that's more of my frustration than anything else. But really, really good vendors too. We've got some fantastic vendors we work with as well.
Yeah. So, you kind of mentioned, security and technology, if you think about technology, whether it's consumer or what you do for work, what technologies are you most excited about? In terms of even if stuff on the horizon.
I'm excited about some of the AI technologies that are coming up. I know that's cool, but I think AI is going to help the small MSP a lot more out there. I think there's a lot of questions still with that. Some of the antiviruses out there, I'm thinking there's Cylance has a product that's pretty neat with AI, but there's still a lot of unknowns with that and some of the machine learning we can do with that. So I'm pretty excited about that and making it easier for a small business owner, small MSP to get started without having to do all of the staffing. They can have it. There's a lot of things that can be automated in this world. I'm excited about the new Microsoft console, the new PowerShell console, command prompt console they're combining together. I think that'll make the automation a lot better for us as well. So those are the two things that I would say I'm the most excited about. AI is probably down the road, and the new console is going to make it easier.
Okay. What keeps you up at night? Technology-wise.
Ransomware, hacking. I think that concerns me more than anything else, especially on my commercial client side. Just making sure that we've locked everything down. So.
And MSPs are more and more of a target. Because
absolutely, and then I've put more time into securing myself, honestly, this last year than I have my clients because they're going to try to come through us.
Yeah, because if they can get through you, then they're out to all your clients. So
exactly
one place to attack instead of multiple. So that's definitely better for them, but worse for you.
Yes, yeah. So
cool. So are you ready for our rapid fire round?
Sure, go for it.
Okay, so these are meant to be easy. So
okay.
don't put a lot of thought into it. All right, first up, Apple or Android?
What do I use or what do I like?
What do you like?
I use Android. I like Android.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, Mac, Linux, or Windows?
Windows.
Okay. Amazon, Azure, or something else?
Oh, I guess it depends on the solution, but Amazon would be preferred.
Okay. Local backups, cloud, or both?
Cloud.
Okay. What about virtualization? Should you always virtualize?
We use some virtualization, yeah.
I'm guessing residential customers don't, though.
What's that?
The residential customers probably don't.
Not so much, but there are some potentials in that market still.
And then finally, which is worse, printer support or vendor cold calls?
Printer support.
Huh?
Did you say printer support?
Yeah, printer support.
Yeah, printer support's way worse than vendor cold calls. So.
Okay, yeah. A lot of people agree. So although some people, they're like, I don't like vendors either. So. Okay, see, that was easy. It was painless. What else? Any other advice you have out there for our audience, for other MSPs that are listening?
I would say just try to get involved in the MSP community. That's the one thing I found in this line of work. Everybody's very willing to help,
Mm-hmm.
and they're willing to give you advice. Even guys right here in the Cleveland market are willing to help me. I haven't seen that in some of the other industries I've been a part of, where it's all about the competition, not going to help you at all. There's so much out there to get that it's not even a question of should we help each other.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody specializes, so I would say specialize rather than try to be everything to everyone, and it works out so much better. So that would be some advice there.
Yeah, I forgot to ask you on the commercial side. Do you specialize there?
We don't have a particular vertical market that we're in. We're working with a lot of mom and pops on that side, so they're very similar in that it's going to be basic workstation, some Office 365 mixed in with that. We don't get anything too specialized. We do have some specialization partners that we do work with. If we get something that's really not within our scope.
Great. Nate, it has been awesome talking to you today. I really
thanks, Doug. I appreciate it.
And thanks for helping out with your knowledge for our listeners.
Yeah.
And maybe I'll see you at another conference here coming up.
Oh, absolutely. I plan on it.
Okay. Well, have a great week.
Thanks, you too.